Hello there, and welcome again to Introduction to React Testing Library with me, Tejas Upmanyu. In this second part, we'll continue our journey and write some more test cases. In the first part, we got to know about React Testing Library and we wrote our first unit test using it, which tested if a component renders correctly. In this one, we'll continue writing test cases using React Testing Library. So let's begin. We'll resume where we left off in part 1. We'll add another test to the suite. In this test, we'll test if the menu shows up on clicking the select control. Let's write it down. So we'll write a new test. First argument is string, where we want to test if the menu shows up on clicking the select control. The second argument is a function which contains the test code. Here we'll start by rendering the component using the render method from React Testing Library. So const render, and we'll render our select component again. We'll pass options as prop, and we'll get getByRole query function in return. We'll use getByRole with argument button to get our select control element. So const control element getByRole on button, which will give us our control element. We want to click this control element so that dropdown opens. So we'll use fireEvent.click to trigger an event on control element. This should open up the dropdown. Then we'll get our menu list by again employing the getByRole function. If you are wondering how we are getting the role menu list, you can delve into the component code and see that we have provided our list a role of menu list, which we are trying to query here. So const menu list is getByRole menu list. This will give us the menu list element. Again, we'll get our indicator by using the same method as image tag has a default role of img. So we'll do const dropdown indicator, and we'll get it by role of img, as all image tag have a default role of img. Now we expect the indicator to have an alternate text of dropdown indicator up once the dropdown is open. So we'll write expect dropdown indicator, and we expect it to have an attribute which is alt, which should have a value dropdown indicator up. Nice. We also expect our menu list to be visible once the dropdown is open. So we expect menu list to be in the document. Nice. Clicking on the dropdown again, control element again specifically should close the dropdown. So we'll again click on the control element using fireEvent.click. Then again we'll expect dropdown indicator to have a different value. We'll again use to have attribute alt. This time the attribute should have a value of dropdown indicator down, since the dropdown must be closed by now. And we expect our menu list to not be in the document this time around because the dropdown is closed. So expect menu list dot not dot to be in the document. Yarn test is already running, and let's check it if our tests pass. And they do. Cool. Let's break this test intentionally to see what happens. We'll change the text value here from up to down when the dropdown indicator is supposed to have a alt value of drop-down indicator up because the drop-down is open. Let's save this file and see. So test running and it breaks. We see an error that expected the element to have an attribute drop-down indicator down, which we passed in our expect, and it received actually drop-down indicator up because the drop-down is open. Amazing. So we'll revert our test back to its original state and everything's fine. Before we move further, it's imperative that all our tests run in an isolated manner with no side effects from previous tests running and affecting the next test in the line. For this, we'll use after each, which is a function from jest, and we'll use the cleanup function after each test has executed to clean up the environment so that all our tests can run in isolation. Cool. Time to write some more tests. Let's write another test to test if our options are rendered correctly. So we write test, we pass it a string. If our options are rendered correctly, the second argument being a function will contain test code. There again, we'll render our component, select the options, and we'll get by role and get all by role query functions. We'll fire a click event on the selector button, which will make the dropdown open. We'll get our control element again using get by role button, and we'll fire a click event on it using fire event dot click control element. This should open up the dropdown. Now we'll get all our options in the menu list by using get all by role and passing the role of option we have given to our option elements, as we can see in our code. So let's go ahead, get all menu options by using get all by role option. Finally, we expect our options to be of the same count as the number of options we have passed as props. So we'll use expect menu options to have length, which is same as options dot length. As we save it, we see that yarn test is already executing and it runs our tests as soon as we save the file. All tests passing again. Great. Let's keep on the momentum and write another couple of tests. So we'll again invoke the test function. And in this new test, we'll check if the rendered options are correct. The second argument, the function containing our test code. Again, we'll render our select component using render select options as options. And we'll get by role and get by text query functions for our use. Then we'll fire the click event using fire event.click on select control. So first we'll get our control element again using get by role button. We'll fire a click event to open the dropdown. Fire event.click control element, which should open up the dropdown. Finally, we'll run a loop on options. So we'll do options.forEach and inside we'll restructure each option into label and value. Now we expect all the options to be visible, right? So we'll do get by text label, which is the text to be shown on each option, and we'll expect it to be visible. So we'll wrap it inside and expect to be visible. All right, let's head over to terminals to see if and all our tests are passing again. Cool. All right, on to the final test. In this test, we'll check if the if selecting an option really works. Second argument, the function containing the test code again. Again, we'll start by rendering our component using render function. Select options, options. We'll get by role function again. And again, we want to open the dropdown. So I'll just basically copy this code to open the dropdown. Next again, we need to click on the control element to open the dropdown, which we'll do by fire event.click as we have done in the above code. Again, we'll use get by role function with an argument menu list to get the menu list. Const menu list get by role menu list. Finally, we'll run a loop on options, and for each option, we'll expect the option with text same as level of the option to be visible. So we'll try by randomly clicking on an option. So we'll fire an event, a click event on the element with get by role, get by text actually, get by text, which has the same text as one of our options. So let's take our second option. So we'll do options dot first, which will represent our second option, not label. This will get us the element which has the same text as second option's label. We need to get by text from the render as well. Use it first. There we are. So here we are basically clicking on an option to select it, which should result in the controls text to be changed to that option's label. So we'll do wait, because setting state is an asynchronous process and it takes time. We'll import wait from React testing library. Wait is used to wait for a certain action over a certain point in time and for a given period. So we'll use wait, and then we'll expect after waiting that our control element to have text content similar to option 1 dot label. So wait is actually a function. It takes a callback style. argument. So we'll pass it like this. Alright, so again going through the code, we first get our control element, click it to open the dropdown. Then we don't really need the menu list, and we click on the first option. We first option, second option is label. We get the element. We get the option by using get by text, and we click it using fire event.click. Then we wait for the state to update because setting the state is an asynchronous process. And then we'll wait and expect after waiting that the control element has a text content similar to the option we clicked, which is option one.label. Let's save this file and check our tests. All tests passing again. Cool. Finally, we have written ample amount of test cases considering how a user would use our select component. As you can see, all tests are passing, and that's great. As we move on to conclusion of this session, I'd like to discuss another term you might have heard, that is code coverage, which essentially refers to the percentage in terms of lines of code covered by tests, which is used as a traditional measure of code health and a parameter for test case quality. Albeit code coverage is not the final and binding parameter for quality of test cases, it is a good one. So here I am curious to find out the code coverage for the test we wrote in this session. To find out, run, first we'll close, then we'll run yarn test hyphen 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 coverage to get the coverage for our tests. This will run the test again and present a code coverage report in the terminal. And here we are. As we can see, our select component select.tsx has 100% statements covered. Great. Select component is a perfect 100% has a perfect 100% test coverage. Amazing. Though 100% is the perfect score, maintaining an average of 85% test coverage over the whole code base is a good feat to achieve. So that's all I wanted to share in this session. Unit tests for UI are no more trivial. They carry significance. And being developers, the onus is on us to write good test cases for the code we write and ship. I couldn't possibly cover everything React testing library has to offer. But I've shared all the resources you need to excel in using that library in the additional reading section. And I strongly advise you to go through them. That's all for this video. Thank you very much.